Hello, welcome back to the channel. On today's menu, I'm going to try Scotch fingers from all the major supermarkets. Which one is best? Let's find out. On a previous episode, I've tried the Arnotts chocolate Scotch fingers. I really like those. Here's all the products on a table. The chocolate Scotch fingers scores 8.5. With the ingredients already filled in, it would appear the Belmont Scotch finger has the lowest salt content, followed closely by Woolworths. And in terms of sugar, this Arnott's 50% less sugar version, definitely as advertised, it is certainly quite low on sugar. Now, let's see how each of these taste. Up first, Coles Scotch finger biscuits. Coles Scotch fingers. It's quite buttery in taste. It's a little bit dry, but considering the price you're paying for this, there's not a lot I can complain about. It gets 5 out of 10. Up next, the Woolly Scotch finger. Very interesting. So the Woolly Scotch finger, in comparison to the Coles, it seems to be a bit more dense, whereas the Coles one, the texture is slightly different. The Woolly states melts in your mouth. Not really. It's a bit too dry for that. It gets 4.5 out of 10. Here's how both of them rank so far. I'll keep this table updated as we go along. Taste-wise, I do think I like the Coles more. There's more of a buttery taste with the Coles. It's only half a point in favour of the Coles. Up next, the Belmont from Aldi supermarket. It's also 250 grams. Everything here today is 250 grams, except the Arnott's 50% less sugar. That one is 232 grams. The Aldi Belmont, very similar to the Coles. Unfortunately, it is still quite dry. In terms of taste, 5 out of 10. It's no surprise that it's similar to Coles, very similar in terms of fats, but in saying so, it hasn't resulted in a more buttery taste. Now let's try the Arnott's Scotch finger. So the Arnott's Scotch finger. The difference is very subtle, but biting into one of these, it's just a bit more substantial than some of the supermarket generics. It's not a big difference, but there is absolutely a difference. It gets 6 out of 10. And finally, the Arnott's 50% less sugar Scotch finger. Never had this before. Let's give it a go. And the biggest surprise of the day, Arnott's 50% less sugar. These Scotch fingers I actually prefer more than the rest. Whilst it does say less sugar, it actually doesn't mean less sweet. Somehow they've made this taste just as good as the rest, while somehow improving upon the overall taste. This one seems the most balanced to me. It doesn't lose out to any of the rest in terms of taste. In terms of texture, this is equally as good as the Arnott's original. It gets 7 out of 10. In terms of texture and buttery taste, the Arnott's ones are noticeably better than the supermarket generics. They just taste a little bit more substantial. So how do they all rank between each other? Here's the table now updated. And in first place, it's the Coles Scotch fingers. A very good effort by Coles. It's got great value for money. Of all the generic ones, it's probably the one that I would choose. Following close behind, the Aldi Belmont, another good attempt. Nothing to really complain about, but it doesn't really stand out too much either. Third, the Woolly Scotch finger. This one actually has the least amount of fat, not by a lot, but it is worth pointing out. And of all the non-reduced sugar versions, it's got the least amount of sugar. It's more salty than it is creamy. It just doesn't taste as good as the rest. Still, as you can see, there's really not a lot between them in terms of points. And in fourth place, the Arnott's Original Scotch finger. It's got a respectable 6 out of 10 for the taste, but a rather poor value for money score. But like the other Arnott's Scotch finger, both of these are quite high in salt, unfortunately. And in last place, the Arnott's 50% less sugar, mainly due to, again, poor value for money. I also don't understand why it has to be 232 grams as opposed to 250 like all the rest. It's got the best ingredient score. Assuming this one is on discount at half price, this will be my go-to. The Arnotts chocolate Scotch fingers, which we've tried in a previous episode, that is still the best tasting in my opinion. The chocolate really breaks up the monotony of the Scotch finger and does add an extra layer of flavour, which I do enjoy. In saying so, it's also quite poor in terms of value for money. Okay, coming back to today's comparison. Here's our sweet snacks table. And here's where all these products are ranked. And that concludes today's episode. Thank you for watching. See you for the next one. And consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much.